Okay, hi and welcome to the Book Lab. I'm Björn, and it's time to go through another great books list category. And this category I call life skills. And I don't know if that's a great definition of it, but it's basically books that will help you through life, that will give you the mindsets, the skills, just teach you important lessons that you will need in order to live a good life and just take care of yourself out there. So we're gonna jump right into it, and we're gonna start with Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. A key skill in life is negotiation. We need to be able to speak up for ourselves in order to get our ideas across. And the sad fact is that the people that can speak for themselves, that can draw people in, make a good case for their point of view and their ideas, they will just get ahead of people who don't, regardless if the person who don't really have the negotiating skills are better people. The people that have the skills will just outperform, get their point across, get moving much easier. And this book is one of those books that just paid off reading several times over. I mean, I have a bookmark here. That's for my salary negotiation bookmark with some cool ideas, and I used those this year actually, and I managed to get my salary up 17%. And this is not to brag, it's just to show that there are techniques that you can use that will just help you, right? Because I'm the worst negotiator. I'm the worst negotiator in the world. I shy away from negotiation, conflict, everything. So it's just great to just understand that this is a skill you can learn even if you're averse to negotiation. A great book, one of my favorites of all time. And now to something completely different. I have a book here that is called oh, so many books. Okay, we'll get through them all. I'm gonna be quick here. The Shallows, What the Internet is Doing to Our Brains by Nicholas Carr. Here's a quote. This is a book to shake up the world. This book has a few years on it. It's not the newest book, but it talks about how technology changes the way humans behave, how the medium is the message, and how, well, let's just say that the tools that we use numb the parts of the brain that they amplify. A great example of this is the research that has been done, the experiments that has been done on taxi drivers, for instance, when they started to use GPSs that kind of amplify the way you can find your way around a city. The parts that they had used in the brain before with their natural map that they have worked up through experience, that part of the brain actually shrunk in activity as they moved on to GPSs. So technology changes the way our brains work, basically. And this one is focused on the internet and what that has done to our concentration and how we perceive the world and how we use tools and how we act. It's a super interesting book. It also gives you just a short history of how technology has changed human behavior, which is just fascinating. There's more books like this on the list. I'm gonna talk about the book I've talked about many times before, but it's Influence by Robert Cialdini. This is a book that I definitely think it should be mandatory at schools. I wish my son and my daughter had to read this in school. Well, I'm gonna force them anyway. Maybe I have to pay them to do it, but it's the psychology of persuasion. And why is this book important? Well, in the world, when you go out, you open up the door, you walk out, and there will be people trying to persuade you to their side of things. They want to sell you stuff. And this book has two major lessons for you. On the one hand, it helps you protect yourself from people who try to influence you, who maybe try to manipulate you. And on the other hand, it also provides great tools for you to pitch your project, to get people to get on board with your ideas, because that's the other part of influence. It's a way for you to get people excited about what you think, to get your point across, for you to be able to make a mark on the world with the thing that you care about. So learning about influence is super important. This one goes through all the common heuristics and the cognitive biases that we humans suffer from an evolutionary standpoint, and how they can easily be hijacked by people who don't want the best for you, basically. And now let's talk about acquiring skills. One book that I really liked, I read it. It was a long time since I read it, but it really made a mark on me. It's Mastery by Robert Greene. This book will help you hold on to your curiosity, help you build career capital, help you become a master of your craft, stay on the course, find your purpose, all of that. And it's also a book that can help you with generational impact. If you're a parent, for instance, this is a good book because we can help you guide your children on the right path, because that's something not everyone gets. Like, how do I become something in the world? Not every parent can answer that, but having the knowledge from this book, it can help you be a guide for your children and help impact their journey, their path ahead. It's a great book for younger reader who is just starting out in life, trying to build a career for themselves. This is a great book to read. And as always, Robert Greene, when you read his books, it's just like, it's entertaining. It has a lot of examples from history. It always takes examples from figures from history and draws conclusion based on their success, which is fascinating. You always get a lot of books that you add to your read list because he cites so many sources. He's a joy to read, and this is a great book. Oh yeah, we're going to talk about another thing, but also if you like the content here, you can just like and subscribe. It helps me reach more people, and maybe if I get some more people tuning in and people can see, oh, he has actually some followers, then maybe we can start doing some interviews with authors such as Robert Greene, Robert Cialdini, and wouldn't that be great? That would be fantastic, actually. And also, I'm approaching 10K now, and I promised some guy in the comments last week that I would get a new shining and great microphone when we hit 10K for these channels, because yeah, you need to celebrate all the milestones, right? The next book is Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker. This is a book I just wish I read earlier. I read it maybe 8 years ago or so. The New Science of Sleep and Dreams. Not only is it interesting to get the latest research around why we sleep and dream and all of that, but it's also important to learn why sleep is important for us. I should probably reread it now because I've been a sloppy sleeper recently, and I've done experiments based on this book, like trying to find what's my optimal sleep level. And I guess it's not that common to like sleep 8 hours a night. It's hard to get that in. I mean, I'm struggling, even though I know it's important. But oh boy, if I sleep 8 hours a night in 1 week, I feel like a totally different person. I'm so much more positive. You can feel my skin looks better, everything. Right now I'm pretty messed up. There's been a lot of partying and stuff going on. Why We Sleep is a great book. It's accessible. It's one of the reasons that I fell in love with nonfiction books as well, because it's one of those books that show that science can be fun to learn, to be a lifelong learner, can be a rewarding and fun experience. That's why I have Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker on the list. And if you have some time, I have 2 more books. Okay, let's talk about a real classic. How to Win Friends and Influence People. I reread this book quite recently. I put a review up on the page. I will link to the reviews of all these books, like the full reviews, in the description below. This is by Dale Carnegie. It's a very old book. It's a book that has been sold in like 20 millions of copies. It says 16 millions here. I probably sold 4 million since this one was printed. It's about, hey, how are you a nice and interesting person that people like? And there is some science to it. It's like there are some do's and don'ts, and I think it's good to read this book. It can feel quite weird to read a book like, oh, I'm gonna be like the most awesome and nice person ever and make people like me. It's not about that. You can still be a genuine person and also try to read up on like social skills. And this is a great way to find out how to be a good person, how to make people like you, how to be someone that people like to be around, which is helpful when you want to build your social circle and find your pack, so to speak, find the people that you want to hang out with. this is a great book. It's a great guide. It's also a great book for anyone who's in a leading position, for instance, at work or in other areas of life. It's a book I recommend. I reread it recently and it still holds up. Another book is something that I read very recently, The Bitcoin Standard. This is a great book for two main reasons. One being that we're in an economic environment that is kind of daunting, and it puts a lot of pressure on people because governments around the world are debasing the currency. It's much more expensive to live in places. It's much more expensive to get and put food on the table, and that can make you quite depressed. And this book does a great job. It's by Saifedean, and not only do you get the history of money and currency debasement, and it kind of gives you an understanding how we end up in a situation like this where everything gets more expensive. It provides a great history of different types of currencies that we used throughout the ages, from seashells to different kinds of rocks to precious metals, which is just a fascinating thing to read about in itself. But it also talks about Bitcoin, which could be hope, and this is not financial advice, but the thing is that we have come up with, through engineering and computer science, a way to, well, we've come up with money that is basically perfect, that you can't inflate, that is totally predictable and totally transparent, and there is no one that has control over it, and that's Bitcoin. And it's super interesting new technology. It's not new, it's like 15-16 years old, but it's something worth reading up about because it might have a bigger impact on the world in a couple of years than you might think, and it's good to read up on that. Make up your own mind about the technology, but it's just something that I read about very recently, and it's probably the most interesting technology that I've heard of. More interesting than AI or whatever is trendy right now. Okay, AI is a big deal as well, but this is very fundamental technology that's just been blowing my mind, and you should know about it because it might have a big impact on the future. And that's it for me from this week. I'll be back next week. I might be talking about the great books list in regards to spirituality, and that's a genre that you should not ignore because having a spiritual life is important. Thanks for watching, and see you next week. And I'll also be online with a new book review. I'm reading The Sovereign Individual, Mastering the Transformation to the Information Age, so hopefully I'll have a review up on that very soon. And I'm here in the middle of the night. Now I'm gonna go to the pub, and yeah, happy reading. Björn out.